Hi, this is Steve Lentini, and I'm your host for the podcast Different Thinking for Different Times. This week's episode is season 2, number 7. So it's episode 7. I wanted to talk today about different kinds of small minded thinking. We've been talking about what occurred and what I learned on November 18th, 2002. So 18 years ago this November. It took me a long time to learn it, but that the divine, God, the goddess, doesn't matter what you call it, the Buddha, the Abraham, the Moses, the Mohammed, the Christ, that life essence, life consciousness, the infinite consciousness is all one when we return to that, when we return to where we came from. As Deepak Chopra calls it, pure consciousness. I was there. 1 second in my body in intensive care, and the next second, pure consciousness, a knowing, one with everything and nothing, all at the same time. And there was nothing from here, nothing from this existence was there. And that's when I got back in my body, I realized, boy, we have a lot of small-minded thinking in what I call now is our acorn brain, small-minded. And anything that's small-minded is not from God or the universe or the divine or the goddess, again, whatever you call it. And the other thing was there was only the now. I call it the now on steroids. There was no past and no future. There was no way to string events together. There was an event, an event, an event, an event like that. I had no memory of them until I got back in my body after I was asked stay or go. And I surrendered. My consciousness responded with thy will be done. So I learned I had never really surrendered like that. I was 50. I mean, there were certainly mindful, present moments, but not like I've had since that miracle event, given the second chance of life. And so there was no negative, no sin, nothing mentioned other than the good I had done, the lives I had touched, and there was no judgment, nothing that we use here. So let me just give you some examples of what I call the acorn brain, small-minded thinking. Nothing you do in life, no job you have, no role you play defines you. Nothing. The homes that you owned, the money you gained, none of that comes with you, as you know, except that I can tell you that there's no measurement of any of the things that are human when we go back to the other side. There's no races. There's no nationalities. There's no countries. There's no sexes. There's no religion. And there's no small-minded thinking about differences, political differences, sexual preferences, who we want to marry. It didn't matter. Nothing was mentioned from the earthly existence. There's no judgments, right? So we want to judge a neighbor or even a sister or a brother or some other family member, an aunt or an uncle, let alone people standing in line at a supermarket. None of that is in pure consciousness. So you become one instantaneously in the blink of an eyelash. I mean, literally, I was in my hospital bed in intensive care 1 second on the 5th day of what was to be a 100-day experience, 60 days straight and 40 out of the next 60, in and out of the hospital. There was nothing from here in pure consciousness. And on that 5th day when I flatlined, it was an amazing experience. So it still blows my mind to this day. And I remember it like it was 5 minutes ago, unlike any dream. So when you get stuck in traffic and you want to not let someone in, that's small-minded thinking. If you disagree with someone's political persuasion, whatever it is, that's small-minded thinking. If you spend your life railing against a whole bunch of people who don't agree with you, you're wasting your energy. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a platform for bettering humankind. We should certainly want to leave everything and everyone a little better than we find them in every moment. But if you're If you want to bang your sign against somebody else's head, you're not leaving them better. And it's okay if you disagree, especially in this country, right? In a democracy, the majority will rule and accept it. And as you can see, even sometimes the majority doesn't want to accept it, which is all craziness, right? It's all judgment. And I'm not for one side or the other. I'm not making this political because there is nothing political. God doesn't take a side. The universe doesn't take a side. It wants us to do good. Think about how you feel when you do good. And the only thing mentioned in my life review was the lives I had touched, the good I had done. All the good, including the lives touched of people who had passed before me, the consciousness of relatives, my mother and father, my brothers who had gone before me, my brother who had gone before me, and friends who I call my brothers. Their consciousness was there, and it's not like there's any memory of mistakes you made or errors you made or sins you committed. It's kind of cliche to say what happens on earth stays on earth, but that's pretty much defines the experience. And I know that'll upset a lot of people because it's small-minded to want people to pay for their sins here and mistakes here and burn in hell forever, because there was none of that. So any kind of vengeance or revenge, even that's written in what's called holy scriptures, is not godlike. That's where the human writer took over. The ego brain, the acorn brain, they had small-minded thinking, as you can see when you read the stories. You can see small-minded thinking pop up. So look at your thinking and learn to rise above small-minded thinking and have a sense of humor about it, because it doesn't go with you. It'll finally leave when you leave your body. You won't have any small-minded thinking. But you can come close, as Christ said, and I think even the Buddha, Lao Tzu in the Dao de Jing, you can have heaven on earth by overcoming small-minded thinking and judgments. You can observe it and notice what your thinking is like, and maybe the thinking of others that's small-minded, but just observe it and have no reaction to it. The divine is with us always, even in those situations and moments that bug us, because I have to tell you, there was only the now when I was without my body. And that's what led me to the discovery that the now is where the divine is. It's just that we reject moments because we have a small acorn brain. We reject certain people, we reject certain events because it doesn't match the plan we have, or it doesn't match our own personal beliefs or preferences or political persuasion, or we want to make a nationality wrong or a race wrong or a sex wrong or a sexual preference wrong. None of that is infinite thinking. It's all small-minded. And I'm not making you wrong for having small-minded thinking, because I have it in my body. But being back in my body, I've just learned with that experience to have a sense of humor about it and notice it. Because as I notice it, I learn to overcome it. And I realize how it just doesn't matter, because 1 second I was doing a seminar and the next second I was gone. And that's what the divine wants us to recognize, is to just be present in the moment and to allow everything that shows up, because after all, as Eckhart Tolle says, it's here. He also says some people think reality is nuts. That's the rejection of the now, of the moment. And Eckhart also says when you fight life, life fights you, and that's what a lot of people spend time doing, fighting what is. And it's really wasted energy. Instead, have a sense of humor about it and look at how you can learn and grow by overcoming small-minded thinking, the acorn brain, or as I sometimes refer to as the little fucker, the ego. So spend your next week observing your thinking and notice how small-minded it is, and know that none of that goes with you, and that's our task here. is to learn how to overcome that small-minded thinking. And as you do, you'll have moments, you'll have a glimmer and a glimpse of what's next, of heaven on earth, on pure consciousness. As you begin to stretch your small-minded thinking, limited thinking, into the limitless, infinite thinking, you will be one with what made this amazing miracle we live in, right? We're floating on a garden planet around a exposed nuclear fusion plant that we call the sun, in the midst of a vacuum, blackness of space, and we're at the exact right spot around this wonderful gift called the sun so that life could occur. Now, I'm not saying we're the only life. It seems logical. There could be lots of other life in an amazing universe, an infinite universe. And to embrace that idea is fine with me. It's just that I don't want anything to take me away from being here now, because that's what I learned. That's all I have is the now. And you have to experiment with that for yourself, being in the now and allowing whatever shows up. And I think, too, the universe might just have, at least for me, it would be, maybe this is small-minded thinking, but it would be just desserts for people that despise one race or another, come back as that race, or people who despise one sex or someone of a different sexual preferences, maybe they come back as that, or someone who kills someone comes back next time as a victim, so they get to experience the negative, right? That sins are paid for here by us coming back over and over again to experience the victim of our small-minded thinking. And so that would be a caution to expand your thinking into the infinite, to allow all that are around you to be who they are, and to move from small-minded thinking from small-minded, limited thinking into the limitless, infinite thinking. You are made in the image and likeness of that, not the human side of us, right? We look at our bodies and we picture God looks like man-made or woman-made. Actually, we're made in the image of that infinite thinking, and that's the goal in life. And imagine how much more fun it becomes when you let go of all your judgments, you let go of all the things that you now discriminate against or judge, or all the things you rail against, those who are different than you. Not just look different, but think different. Rise above it all. Challenge yourself to leave everything and everyone a little better than you find them. And that's this week's Different Thinking for Different Times. If you have any questions, you want to challenge me, you want to come on the podcast, you've had a near-death experience yourself you want to describe, reach out to me, steve@stevelentini.com, steve@stevelentini.com. I do it because I love it, and the message is amazing. Just think about how you feel when you do good. Do good. Steve@stevelentini, LENTINI.com. Thank you.